Hey there, welcome back to the Path to Zion podcast, where we are rediscovering the ancient way. Thank you for joining us today. You can always find us online 24/7 at pathtozion.com. The podcast is about 2 years old, and you can find primarily audio podcasts there. And of course, here on the YouTube channel, we're always talking about things of varying nature. Now, today is very specific. Today is very unique as far as this broadcast goes. This one is very specific. You may or may not know, probably don't know, that we just concluded a 13-part series titled Inhabitants Who Were Meant to Sojourn, a Call to Come Out. In greatly paraphrased summary, roughly 6 weeks ago, I was studying Genesis about the accounts of Isaac redigging the wells of his father in chapter 26. And as I read that, I felt convicted that the Father was wanting to teach me something. He was wanting to reveal something within this exact hour on the earth for His people. A principle buried within the text of Isaac traveling through, dwelling, all the intricacies that are therein, that I believe that the Father was illuminating. And this was before all of the election drama and turmoil. The series covered roughly 2 weeks in time, and so we started it right around election time, and the weeks that progressed continued on as the series progressed. And it's very interesting. I had no intentions of doing that. I didn't plan that out. I couldn't have. I didn't know what was going to unfold in this nation specifically, especially over the last 10 days or so. And so I find it very interesting, and I'm convinced again that the Spirit is saying something to the church in this hour very specific to us here, American Christianity. And so I am making this video, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to speak very quickly because there is a wealth of information right here that is an attempt now to be a condensed version of what I spent 11 plus hours speaking on in the long series that we just completed here on the program. Now there are details, there are specifics, there are lengthy explanations and lengthy listings of example after example of the pagan idolatrous history of this nation that we will not even get close to in this greatly condensed version. Now this version specifically, I have felt since probably midway through this series that I'm referencing, the Inhabitants series, the demand of the Father upon me specifically to make something recorded to give to pastors, leaders, teachers, prophets, men of influence, men who have a position, a title, a God-given function and seat within the body of Messiah, to call them out. Not to call them out, but to call them out, to draw them out, to come back to the ancient way, to come back to the foundational principles of the eternal written Word of God now. Not merely the Constitution or the founding of this nation, that it is actually, I'm going to present to you, leader, pastor, teacher, man who has any influence over another. You specifically are going to be given a challenge of choose today whom you will serve. Who will you serve today? And that is going to have to be addressed. It's going to have to be decided for every one of us, of course, what we will do, who we will live according to and for in every possible facet of our lives. Now, I'm going to read a lot because the 12-part series, 13, if you count the introduction, was, I don't know, it became 40 pages written of just the content for the series. And so I've got it down the best I know how, literally. And I'm trusting Holy Spirit to lead me on what matters and what doesn't, what needs added today and what does not. And I'm going to keep commentary to a low as much as I know how, which is not very good sometimes. But just to get right to the text now, Genesis chapter 26, and all of this is going to have to be topically brief. It's going to have to be in great summary. I mean, condensed to a ridiculous measure. Why? Well, it has to. The reason being for that is simple. It's huge. I said in the series countless times, this is a bottomless pit, an ocean with no end, a heavens and a sky with no ceiling. This idolatry and pagan origins of this nation that has permeated all of Christian culture, evangelical patriotism included, right to this very second, this very hour of this age. And I will preface it, like I'm going to do some slides and things, show some images. I have never done that before in a broadcast. It will likely not be fluid. It will likely not be smooth and in great production, but I knew I was supposed to do it. Why? Because I realize a lot of men that I have known in my life who are pastors, leaders, teachers, don't have the time to watch things like this, to give others the attention that they demand and require. Some do, some don't. I want to present this in a form that's moving, but gives you some images to not just say, hey, take my word for it, brother, but yet you don't have time or don't make time to look into these things for yourself. So today's agenda is clear. We're going to address national patriotism. Our love for this nation, patriot at every corner, okay? Christian America, as we always say, covers many brands, sects, denominations of Christianity in America and elsewhere, but the wide way majority says, hey, patriotism until death, loyalty, allegiances to your national heritage, because it's godly, because it's founded on the Ten Commandments. We're going to get to that very clearly. And these are some things you will have to decide as a pastor, as a leader, what you will do with this information. And I said this to everyone who listened to the other podcast episodes. If you don't want the information, just turn it off. Just turn it off. Stop now. You won't be required of it, perhaps, because it's not been added to your understanding. But once your eyes are open to the things I'm going to show you on this screen and read to you that you may not have heard before, you will be responsible for what you do to your congregations, to those underneath you, to those on your email list, to those that you call, to those people that you text, and to the people that you gather together to rally around this nation to continue to try to cram God's eternal laws and ways into a national mindset. We will all be responsible for how we handle these things. So please keep that in mind today. And so let's just touch briefly on the text that launched all of this 2 months ago. Again, Genesis chapter 26. And we don't have time to go into all this stuff. We just don't have time. And most of you, I would presume, know that text more than I do. More than I ever will. You probably know layer upon layer upon layer. I'm no scholar, but yet I also do know that the Father has given me a function and an ability to hear what the Spirit's saying, read the eternal Word of God, and bring it into the now to speak something that is generally not an advantageous word to the church. It's generally harsh. It's generally hard. It's generally calling her out to come out and be separate. It's just a pattern. And so that's what this is going to be. This text specifically, just to give a little groundwork for discussion, even though, again, I know you know the text. Isaac is in the land of Gerar, and the word of Yahweh comes to him and says, Isaac, sojourn through the land. Become a traveler. We looked at in the text in the word studies that we did in the greater series. We looked at the biblical understanding of a sojourner, a traveler. And he, in the next verse, it says, and he dwelled in the land of Gerar. Isaac chose to dwell, immediate disobedience to the word of the Lord, who was clearly telling him to move. He dwells. Now, this is where it gets, I believe, synonymous with where we are right now in this nation of America. Isaac, it says, was blessed by the Father. Yahweh blessed Isaac. Okay, so he's living in this land, dwelling where he was told to travel through, but Yahweh, because he's good, because he's a covenantal God, he's a covenantal Father, he blesses the seed, the offspring of his father Abraham. But the thing is, and we fast forward to verse 16, Abimelech, who was his friend and a friend of his father, comes to Isaac and says, "You're becoming too gadol. You're becoming too great. You're becoming too big. It's time for you to get out of here. Move." As we established firmly in this study, Isaac does not argue the word of the king. He does not assemble an army. He doesn't rise up and say, "Hey, we will not listen to your order to leave here. This is our dwelling." Isaac instead leaves. He goes down to the valley of Gerar, where he meets other inhabitants, other dwellers, others who possess the land now. He's trying to unearth these wells of his father. And again, I understand this text has many layers to it, not just one explanation we've heard since we were in, second grade Baptist church in Sunday school. I understand that. But this layer is true nonetheless. As he's going about doing that, next the herdsmen run him off. "Hey, this isn't yours. Get out of here," as he's attempting to name them contention, strife, struggle, quarreling, hatred. Why? This pattern is being instated in the Word of God. Move. The inhabitants are driving you out. And Isaac, again, when he meets the herdsmen, no fighting. No fighting in the sense of assembling a militia to rise up against the natural governing authorities who are ruling the land. He listens to the word of the inhabitants, and he moves. And he goes along, as we established so clearly before, weeks ago. He goes along, he names a well, expansion, and Yahweh visits him that night, talks to him, confirms what? Isaac is becoming a sojourner. He's a little slow like any one of us, but he's learning. Move, move, move. So he erects an altar. He moves again. He becomes a sojourner in the land, like the word of the Lord came to him and told him to do and to be. We established that very clearly. So I would say we, America, we've been in direct disobedience to the word of the Lord, which is eternal, set. The same instruction. Those people in Yeshua Messiah who have gone into him and lost their lives for his sake and have therefore found it, we are awaiting a kingdom, we are awaiting a land where Yahweh placed his name. Not will place, not is thinking about placing, he has placed his name, and we are moving towards that. I'll give you the little giveaway of the entire series. We ended up the conclusion with Hebrews chapter 11, and we went through with great emotion, man. I felt the Father just impressing that upon me on my innermost places. This is a sojourner, an alien, one who had nowhere to lay their head, no one who had no home, no one who denied comforts and safety and provision and all these things. Why? They were awaiting a better country. They were longing for a Zion, New Jerusalem, place where Yahweh will place his name reality. Where he has placed his name is where we're going. And these men in Hebrews 11 and women, they knew this by faith, and they counted the cost. And everything here had to go. We're longing for another country. We're awaiting something that is yet before us. So we talked about that. Now let's get moving. Okay? Christmas, Easter, Halloween, Mother's Day, Christmas star. Many people I know personally, maybe you, have left these traditions behind. They've left the traditions of men. We're free. We came out of the Christian church. We came out of this. We came out of that. Our identity now is, well, we're free from that idolatry. A lot of the church that's come out likes to make fun of those who are in. Some rightly call them out in love and in compassion to come. Others love to heap on criticalness upon them. And have spent many years defining the pagan origins of things such as Christmas and Easter. It's very easy. It takes a day or two, if you've never looked into it for the first time, to see these celebratory traditions of man are just that. They're empty, hollow traditions rooted in pagan origins, festivals, orgies, celebrations. Why? Because that's what man does as a whole now. And so these, get it out. These have got to go. Pagan. Remove them. You can't tolerate these things and be pleasing to Yahweh Elohim at the same time. But most people, these same individuals in many cases, will not even consider the idea that things such as America, the United States of America, are founded on pagan principles, ancient deities, gods, goddesses. There's a breakdown that I don't understand, but is very true, very evident. There's a breakdown that mentality that is in many brothers that I love of rooting out pagan idolatrous images and all these things. Every single one of them have got to go. But you get to America, you can't touch her. Like many Christians, you cannot touch Christmas. Don't you dare question Easter. It's that same spirit that's evident to me in these individuals who are steeped in patriotism and nationalism-based thinking, in identities. You will not let it go. We will go to our graves, man, fighting for this nation and our freedoms and our liberties. I am convinced, friend, by the end of this, you're going to be given an option to let that go, to leave and to come out and be free, and you may not even know you're in slavery. May the Father open all of our eyes to the idolatry in my own heart. It's got to go. For those who have come out, eradicating pagan traditions, have got to realize they cannot stop with that same mindset, that same drive to get idolatrous living out of our own homes and our own hearts when you come to America's heritage, founding, design, and ideals. So why would Yahweh call us out? Why would he call us out from this nation? Especially in this hour of assault on the Constitution, national liberties, freedoms, freedom of speech, all these things are going away. Why? Simple. They have to. They have to go. They have to go. We're going to get to that as well. National liberties, got to go. What I deserve because of a piece of paper written 200 years ago? No. It's going to go. I said that clearly in past episodes. These things will be taken. They will be. So why would we suggest that nationalism and patriotism are against the ways of Yahweh Elohim? Pagan, mixing, idolatrous. The ways of the nations are not just out there. They're not just out there. We're going to go over that so clear. They are right here in this nation. Okay? My warning is as we see in Jeremiah chapter 10. Hear the word of Adonai that speaks to you, house of Israel. Here is what Adonai says. Don't learn the ways of the nations. Don't learn the ways of the Goyim people who are outside of the people of God, going their own evil, idolatrous ways. Do not learn their ways. We have learned the ways of the nations. We think we're elite. We think we're specifically different. We think our founding is unique. We're going to see it is not. It was not. We are no different. Exodus chapter 34:12, watch yourself that you make no covenant with the inhabitants of the land into which you're going, lest it become a snare in your midst. 1 Kings chapter 11, we talked about this, I believe it was part 2 of the series. Solomon was told, quote, you shall not associate with them, nor shall they associate with you. They will certainly turn your heart away to follow their gods. He had 700 wives, princesses, we went through all of that stuff, concubines. For when Solomon was old, his wives, his lovers, turned his heart away to follow other gods, and his heart was not wholly devoted to Yahweh Elohim, as the heart of his father David had been. So it concludes with the Lord raised up an adversary against Solomon. Judgment came. Why? Because Solomon left what he started with, which is a foundation inherited from his father, of what? One true God. He invited other lovers. He was enticed by their alluring, this is a perfect imagery, the whoring of God's people, of the patriotic Christian American church. She has all these lovers, and every one of them's covered in red, white, and blue. Let's just be hard. I think most of you guys who would listen to this can take that. But let's be hard. Let's be willing to be hard, shall we? Please. I'm being hard on myself. I have a laundry list myself of idolatrous ways in me. The Father's saying, hey, it's your choice, Joel. It's your choice. Come out. Keep coming out. So why America specifically? I'm thoroughly convinced that this nation is pagan and founded on ancient gods and goddesses. It may sound outlandish, it may sound conspiracy-esque, but please pay attention and listen and give yourself to be willing. I first started studying the nation's founding about 13 years ago. My wife and I spent a couple years doing that. We found a lot of things I had never heard in my life. It goes deeper and deeper with each passing moment and every single thing I study. A universal governmental agenda has conned the majority patriotic church and deceived her with great precision. I know you probably don't see that, and I know that you would disagree with that, presumably. I'm telling you, it is the perfect job. It's been executed with great precision. It blows my mind how it's working. But this is not a Christian nation founded on 10 commandments. No, not at all. This is not founded on the 10 commandments of Yahweh Elohim, period. We're going to prove that without any question whatsoever in an hour or less, hopefully. Evidence is in plain sight all around us. The fruit on the tree, if that's not enough by itself, is revealing of this fact. We, in our own house, have known people that have presented things to us, whether it's images or symbols, that if they're on your curtains of your house or in a picture in the corner of your bedroom, they mean this. When those designs, symbols were created, they meant something, and they've got to go. I love that stuff. We do that here. You wouldn't believe the things we're looking at right now getting rid of in our life. Idolatry. Well, that doesn't mean that to me. That's the same argument that the people who defend Christmas to their deathbed, even though it's pagan, will use. Well, it's all about baby Jesus. No, it's pagan, it's idolatrous. Choice. Same thing with this nation. Whether or not we want to make it Christian or not is irrelevant. It's entirely irrelevant. Things are not simply what we make them. That's bad doctrine. So I'm saying the same tenacity at removing symbolism, images, iconography from our homes, from things that we wear, those things have got to go, right? Many people say that. What about America and all this stuff we're going to reveal here in the next few moments that maybe, again, you don't know? We're going to hit some high points that were in the 13-part series. Or I'm just going to have to extract some things. And again, I'm going to try to do these little images, this slideshow thing. I pray it goes well. Now, this could go on for days, and I'm not even kidding. I could literally, I said this before, I could do a podcast about this and probably do recordings every day and be nowhere near short of content. This could go on forever, but we're going to hit some things specifically. And I want to do this real quick. I'm going to start my little slideshow here and see how this does. This is a definition of a patriot. A person who loves, supports, and defends his or her country and its interests with devotion. One who regards himself or herself as a defender, especially of individual rights, against presumed interference by the federal government. Now, why would I say that? I hear so much right now about all this patriot jargon. I'm a patriot, you're a patriot, she's a patriot, the president's a patriot. We have to be patriots. And when we start talking about allegiance now, I don't care whether or not you say, I never say the Pledge of Allegiance. Our heart's allegiance is what matters. Our mouth does as well, yes and amen. But our heart's alignment with natural temporal governments is way more important than just our mere words coming out of our mouths. And so we have to be careful with these things. Patriotism is a loyalty to the end to a national government of men. And so my question is, and I've had this discussion with several brothers in the last several weeks specifically, and a lot of people respond, understandably so, I'm both. I'm both. Well, I'm both what? I am patriotic and I'm godly, Christian. I'm both. I don't get it. I don't buy that. I don't see it. To me, it's a dual allegiance. It's a double-minded man. That's my own opinion on that. I don't know how you can be what's the word I'm thinking of? A representative of a kingdom that is not yet seen and an equal representative of a natural kingdom of man. I mean, I did a study on this years ago talking about dual citizenship, how I'm an ambassador for one king, one kingdom. If you're an ambassador in the natural, you're not an ambassador for America and for Africa at the same time. It's impossible. Why? You're a citizen and a resident of one place, one representative. And so let's go through some of these things, right? And we're going to try to explain them as we go, as we looked at a definition of a patriot. To me, that's a major warning. When I pray, when I talk to other believers, when I see stuff online, I cringe at this pro-patriot jargon. I don't think people really realize what they're saying. And we're going to expose some of that stuff, okay? So the first thing we're going to look at right here is what? These are pillars, right? This is in the Capitol building. This is called the Hall of Columns. Okay, now we're just going to lay down some groundwork real easy here to begin with. The Hall of Columns in the Capitol building, of course, in the District of Columbia. Now, I want to take us to Exodus chapter 26, verse 1. And again, this is as simple as you can get. You shall not make for yourselves idols, nor shall you set up for yourselves an image or a sacred pillar, nor shall you place a figured stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am your Yahweh Elohim. You are not to set up pillars, okay? We do understand what we're saying here. We're not to set up pillars. We're not to erect statues. Why? Because just like Solomon, they will become your gods. They will become the ones you follow after, the ones you emulate, the ones that you run to for help, the ones that you depend on. And friends, that is crystal clear in this hour of the church. She is becoming dependent upon what? Liberties, freedoms, provided by the founding fathers, the patriots. They did this. They died for this. They said this. They wrote this document. They have provided us our freedom, and we have become enslaved to them. The patriotic Christian American evangelical has, without knowing it now, not deliberately, they have become what we saw with Solomon. They've been driven to idolatry. Man, please be patient. This is going to take some time. Okay, so let's look at this. We all know what this guy is, who he is. Let me turn off my camera so you don't see my face. Okay, so who is this? This, of course, is Baphomet. And where is he sitting? We know the story. You heard the news. He was in front of the Capitol building. Why? Well, the Church of Satan said, if you guys have your idols and statues and all that, we get one of our own. Now, please note how he's sitting. Note he does not have a shirt on. Note that he has his fingers up in a certain way. Note how the boy is looking up at him and how his left hand is pointing down. And look at these things. And of course, notice he's sitting right in front of the Capitol building. Okay, so we got to notice these things. They're very interesting for us to kind of chew on here. Now, here is someone else. Now, this man, of course, you know who he is, probably. This is Zeus. This is the great god Zeus, great leader. Of course, we're talking mythology, but I think these things are more than mere stories. These are real principalities and powers demonstrated through the ancient gods and goddesses that went long before you and I. Okay, so this is him, again, in statue form. Please note the specifics here. He's sitting there with no shirt on. Notice how he's seated. Notice how he's holding up his arm. In this one specifically, what happens to be by his side? It's a mighty eagle. We won't even get into all that in this one. Okay, so now let's go to this next one here. Who is this individual? This is George Washington. He is seated, of course, in Washington, D.C., enshrined. Look how he's seated. He's holding a dagger. He's holding up his hand in the same way. He just so happens to be draped across his lap with some fabric. He has no shirt on. Okay? Is this interesting to anyone else? It's interesting to me. Okay, so let's go back here. I'm going to talk for just a moment. And please forgive me, this is going to take a little bit of time. Okay. And so Baphomet, Zeus, George Washington, put in stone now in the exact same positions. Why? Is this just happenstance? Is this just strange iconography and statues and carvings? It's all coincidental. It's not, and we're going to continue to make that very, very clear. Okay, so let's move on here. Now, this one here, I'm probably just going to leave my camera up. Please don't be distracted. This is going to take too long. Now, we are now moving into the Capitol building in the District of Columbia. Okay, this is the Rotunda mural. This is on the ceiling here. And let's just run through who's on that ceiling. We know George Washington is dead center. We've got Columbia, Libertas, Neptune, who's the Roman god or sea god, talking about the sea, Venus, Mercury, Vulcan, who's the Roman god of fire, Ceres, the Roman goddess of agriculture, all these interesting individuals in the Capitol building, in the most important building now in the United States of America, in the District of Columbia. We find this image, George Washington in the center, depicted being deified. Okay? He's being deified. Y'all do understand that. That's what's happening. Okay? To the left of him is the goddess of fame. Okay? The goddess of fame. And to his right is the goddess Libertas. Oh boy, pay attention. Libertas, liberty, Lady Liberty is to his right. The power hand on the right side, we know that. Boy, here's some Bible knowledge getting dosed in here. George Washington being deified, Lady Liberty, and the goddess of fame. Now, is this being presumptuous? Is this being presumptuous that this is what's taking place? I'm asking a question. Well, that's just George Washington sitting there in the clouds with a rainbow below his feet. Now, there's a little, patriotic lady down below him with a sword and a shield, of course, with America's colors and an eagle on her head and some stars. Lady Liberty, Libertas to his right. Please note what's on her head, won't you? We're going to get to that in mere moments. She's got a cap on her head. It happens to be red. It's going to be very interesting as we move forward. Now, this is called the apotheosis of George Washington. The apotheosis. Do you know what apotheosis means? The apotheosis means to deify someone. It means to deify someone. This is on the painting as well. Okay, do you see her here? This is Minerva. Okay, now Minerva, Columbia, and Libertas are basically this same ancient deity goddess lady. Okay, she's known throughout, this is ancient old. Now she's standing here. I don't even have time to go into all the stuff she's doing and who she's looking at. She's giving men progress. She's giving them instrumentation. She's giving them all these things that I don't have time to point out in this part of the series. This would take too long. So it's very interesting, is it not? This is on there too. E pluribus unum. What does that mean? Out of many, one. Now, you've been told since your history books in elementary school that means out of many states there would be one nation. I would argue that point. And I don't have time to make it crystal clear today in this, but this is absolutely clear when you study this out. What this is saying is out of a pantheon of gods, we're going to create one nation. Out of a pantheon of gods and goddesses and ancient pagan deities, we are creating one nation full of power, full of authority to rule and govern a land. Okay? Out of many, one. That's what that says, and you know that phrase. It's all over your money and it's all over this nation. Out of many, one. Out of many gods and goddesses, George Washington was deified. Again, an apotheosis is what it's called. A deification of a human being. He ascended to the gods and goddesses of ancient history, and they empowered him. They gave to him all the abilities that he carried out to what? To birth this nation, to start and found this nation. Okay? We have got to get through our heads that this is possible. Now let's start looking at a couple more things here. We're going to have to move very quickly. This right here is the Arch of Baal, also known as the Arch of Triumph or the Monumental Arch. Do you know much about this? You see where this image is. Where are they standing? This is right in front of the U.S. Capitol. This was originally in 2nd or 3rd century Rome. It's debatable. It's been a little while. It was what led worshipers into the Temple of Baal. It has now been reconstructed on U.S. soil 3 times. The last time was only 2 years ago in front of the U.S. Capitol building, right in front of your eyes. Why would this be repeatedly allowed? Why in the world would this be repeatedly allowed if this was a nation founded upon the principles, teachings, and commandments of Yahweh Elohim? Why in the world would that be right there? Well, the government's become corrupt. And friends, I'm telling you, that is not an argument that's valid anymore. It has been this way from the founding. It has been this way from the beginning, from ancient times. Gods and goddesses were set in place in civilizations and nations. Why? To rule and govern them, aside from, instead of, or alongside Yahweh Elohim. This nation is no exception, not distinct in any way. We have got to move. Okay, so this right here, this is the cornerstone laying. George Washington, he laid the cornerstone, master mason, the main cornerstone of the District of Columbia, the house and hub of this nation itself, is right there in front of your eyes, this depiction of him wearing his Masonic apron, laying the cornerstone. Now, this painting that you see right here, this is a piece of it now, okay? This painting of the U.S. Capitol cornerstone ceremony led by Master Mason George Washington is in a building right now called the House of the Temple. It's 1 mile north of the White House. The painting itself is at the seat of what is called the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite. Now, here's the full name of the Supreme Council, okay? The Supreme Council, which is also the Mother Council of the World, of the Inspectors General, Knights, Commander of the House of the Temple of Solomon of the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States of America. This stuff sounds like fairy tales. I wish it were. Now this building now, the House of the Temple, where this very painting resides, of a pagan ritual at the very beginning. Now, where this pagan ritual painting is residing is where? In this House of the Temple in America, in the District of Columbia. It's in a building that was modeled after a tomb in modern-day Turkey that was in 330 BC. The tomb that it came from, that this building that's housed now in D.C. was modeled after, was known as one of the original 7 wonders of the world. It was a form of sacrifice ritual. Dead animals would be placed on the stairs leading up to the tomb in ancient times, and it was described like this, quote, "The tomb stairway was flanked by stone lions led to the top of the platform, which bore alongside its outer walls many statues of pagan gods and goddesses. At each corner, stone warriors mounted on horseback guarded the tomb." I'm not even going to read the rest because it sounds like foolishness, and you probably wouldn't even believe me. You'd have to look into it yourself. Okay, we're going to really move now. This is going to start to hurt. I'm being very honest. This is going to start to hurt. And I'm telling you, friends, brothers, sisters, leaders, pastors, teachers, please hear what I'm about to tell you. Because if your spiritual discernment is on, this is going to resonate big time. This one's going to get you. Okay, again, we've already talked about the District of Columbia. We've been told, again, these fantasy little stories. It's named after Christopher Columbus. Then why is it not the District of Columbus? It's the District of Columbia because of the goddess Columbia, Libertas, Minerva. They are the bringers of justice, freedom, and liberty throughout all nations, throughout history. Civilizations, great, mighty Babylonian civilizations, are filled with the goddess Columbia and Libertas, filled to full. She is ancient old, and we're going to start looking at her. Here she is, Columbia's noblest sons, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. Columbia. We are going to, she is a mighty lady, y'all. Lady Liberty is strong. Here she is here, Goddess Columbia. Here's Goddess Columbia. What's she doing? Look how sad she is. She's helping what? A poor black man. What's it say on the bottom? I can't see it. It says something about Will no one help this man? It says something like that. See the stars on the floor, the flag in the background, the sadness, how she's helping the defenseless. Here she is, an old poster from war era. Columbia calls, enlist for the army. Look at the imagery, note her cap. She has a sword. I did in the study, I elaborated on how she was known not to be an instigator. She was one who actually defended the weak, stood up for the defenseless. Now, it sounds like a Bible verse, and that's what scares me. She was the goddess of the ones who were taken advantage of. She was the goddess for the ones who couldn't speak for themselves. She swept in, brought liberty, brought freedom. She was the goddess Libertas in Colombia. Here she is again, presidents on each side. She's got a little frond of a plant. We won't get into that. Of course, she has her shield, and look on her head, please. She is sporting a certain kind of cap we will talk about. Here she is again. What's she doing? She's here for you. She's here to help you. She's here to beckon you to herself. Why? To receive her liberty, to receive your freedom from her. Note again, her hat. Please look at her hat. Okay, we're going to keep moving. Lady Liberty, she is plentiful. Here she is in another old drawing. I think this was from the 30s. I can't remember. Notice some things on her keychain down there. Lightning bolts on her head, of course. She's boasting that she is a world power. She's beautiful. Look at her prowess on her head. Look at the smoke coming out of there. Expansion, greatness. Isn't that interesting in light of what we're talking about here? Okay, so now here is the goddess Libertas. She's beside a friendly lady that we all know, and that is a beautiful representation of freedom for this nation. And for what? Can we say the whole world? Lady Liberty. And that is the goddess Libertas, or Columbia Minerva. Interesting, don't you think? She's ancient old, y'all. She's the liberator of men. She brings freedom to anyone who would call upon her to have freedom. Here she is again, an old statue carving in stone. Lady Libertas, Columbia, Minerva, alongside what? Lady Liberty. Now this here should be disturbing to anyone who would see it, whether you're a believer or just an American patriot, period. You don't have to be both. I know plenty of patriotic men who don't have anything to do with Yahweh's commands. Now this is called American Progress. This is a painting. I can't remember when it was drawn, painted. I can't remember. But this is the goddess Columbia Libertas. Star on her head. She's beautiful. Look at her. She's always in this flowing, revealing clothing. It's very interesting to me, the layers in here. Now, she is, of course, moving west. What's she doing? She's bringing light. Do you see the clear skies behind her? She's bringing trains. She's carrying a telegraph line in her hand. She's bringing agriculture, bounty. What? Vegetation even. This is just like the pagan deities we've seen all throughout time, that we saw all throughout the scriptures. Men depending upon what? Gods and goddesses to provide them their needs, including crops, vegetation, power. There's men coming on stagecoach with covered wagons. We see that. Now look what's up in front of her, y'all, and this is what really caused me great discomfort when I found this painting weeks ago. The American Indians are running off in terror. You can't really see it in this image, but on the bottom there's a wild bear looking back, baring its teeth. You see the herd of bison, and of course it's dark, it's depraved, it's in need of being what? Set free, man. That's the name of this painting, is American Progress. We come in, we eradicate all the bad stuff that we deem as bad, we reclaim the land, and we become inhabitants. We become dwellers, and what do? We deify ourselves. We call upon the ancient gods and goddesses like this one here, like Libertas, and what? We make ourselves great. We make ourselves great. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting here. And don't get distracted by my face here that's lurking in the shadows. There has been something that comes across my Facebook feed for a new movie series or a television series called American Gods. Now, this popped up today when I was looking up some images to put on here for Lady Liberty, Goddess Columbia. This is brand new. This is a series called American Gods, and this character's name, y'all, is Columbia. Her name is Columbia. This is right now. This is right now. The here and now. Friends, please, are you paying attention to what we're saying? Liberty and freedoms that you say you're going to go to your grave preserving and upholding did not come from a godly heritage. It did not come from some unique idea of some men who rebelled and wanted to set up the 10 Commandments and Yahweh's eternal ways in a people. It is ancient old. It is pagan. It is idolatrous. Now this is specifically for the individuals who are excited and ready to rally around the patriotic agenda. We're getting long, I know. I'm sorry. There is no way around it. There is no way around it. I am moving as fast as physically capable. I know individuals that I love now, man, that I can't get through my brain that attended the rally a week ago in Washington District of Columbia in the park. Everybody's wearing red, white, and blue and chanting patriots and Trump, Trump, Trump. And, you know, we love Jesus banners and flags. And all of the mixing is like, that was, and again, that was as we were recording the series, it was like, Father, this is what I'm talking about. This is it. Now this is for those who were there or for those who would promote that as being an awesome, godly agenda. Please consider this. Please consider this. Now, this event was held on the Ellipse Park, okay? Ellipse. Now, we don't have time to get into all this stuff. It's too deep to even dive in. Ley lines, the layout of Washington, D.C., why the Ellipse Park is named that and why it's even sitting where it is. It's the prime meridian of the ley lines of Washington District of Columbia, and it sits right where it does with a founding stone, a foundation stone in the center with carvings on it where all those people stood, declaring God, in God we trust, standing on a Masonic foundation stone in the District of Columbia, on a literal stone now. There's no end. We can't cover all this. Masonic understandings, calling on ancient powers to come to a geographical location right there in District of Columbia where all these patriots were gathered, crying out for justice and liberty in the District of Columbia. So why was the D.C. rally called to be held on Wednesday, January the 6th? Why? Does anyone know why it was on that day? Did some digging around. A sister who watches this broadcast said, have you made this connection yet? I had not made it. I knew about it, but I didn't merge the two. Coincidence? No. There are no coincidences here in this nation. All of this is moving you and I towards a one-world governmental authority that opposes Yahweh Elohim. All of it. The entire earth is under the sway, direction of the wicked one. All of it. We are not exempt. Okay, so January the 6th, when this Trump rally, this patriotic rally was held, just happened to be, what? The last day of Christmas. Epiphany Day. Epiphany Day, where the wise men found Messiah. Okay, this started in 4th century Rome. The Roman Catholic Church, man, Anglicans, several other different denominations, this is a very important day, Epiphany Day. Is it coincidence that Trump-supporting patriots gathered on the prime meridian, literally standing on a foundation stone in the middle of the Ellipse Park, facing the U.S. Capitol building where this imagery we've already showed you resides, in the district of the goddess Columbia, on Epiphany Day now? In tradition, the Magi came to find Christ wearing a certain hat. Okay, now this is gonna sound freaky, land. I'm telling you. We can believe or not. Well, what this one? Well, let's see this. This is something called a Phrygian cap. A Phrygian cap, 2nd century now. We'll just start right here. This Phrygian cap started in 2nd century. Okay, in the land of Phrygia. Okay, so we can follow this throughout all of history, and we'll just get front and center to America. We already pointed this out earlier on Lady Libertas and others in this nation. Will you have a part in victory? Look at her dress, Phrygian cap on her head. We owe allegiance to no crown. Here is the goddess of Columbia, Libertas Minerva, bringing what was called a liberty pole with what? A Phrygian cap on the top. Phrygian. Phrygian cap. She's crowning him. She's setting him free as he holds the flag of the United States of America. Here is the seal for the United States Senate. You can read. You're smarter than I am. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Out of a pantheon of gods, one nation. With what? A liberty cap, a Phrygian cap on the top to signify what? This is our identity. This is the source of our liberty. This, oddly enough, if you don't want to have to look at me, this is the seal for Argentina. Okay? Why would they do that? Why would that be in Argentina? Look at this one. This is modern day France. These are French women. Modern day now. Obviously, you can tell this isn't ancient old. Why are they wearing those things? This is global, ancient, steeped, rooted, established in gods and goddesses wearing a Phrygian cap. Now, what does that have to do with what I just said about Epiphany Day? Just please wait a minute and I'll explain. Phrygian cap, also known as the cap of liberty. It's all throughout American history, but not just there. Josephus wrote about the Phrygians, a Turkish region. Phrygia, I'm talking to pastors, preachers, leaders, teachers. It's in the book of Acts. Shaul Paul talks about going through Phrygia. When he gets to the place where the Holy Spirit says, don't go down to Asia, he's traveling through this region. Now, it was understood in Phrygia that the goddess Libertas brought them freedom, delivered them from battles, delivered them from the bad guys coming and trying to take their freedoms. Go back to patriotism now, brothers. Please listen. Someone was trying to steal their patriotic heritage and lineage, their identities. And so what? Lady Libertas, Minerva, Columbia, she rushed in, helped the weak ones, brought them liberty, brought them freedom. And so in ancient history now, all the way to what we just saw right now, it was signified in drawings, in paintings, in statues, like I showed you, all the way back to 2nd, 3rd century. If a man is seen wearing a Phrygian cap, Lady Libertas, Lady Liberty has given that man his freedom. He's been set free by the goddess, Columbia. Friends, are you making this connection? Are you following what I'm saying? And so again, to make this point clear, why was the Trump rally held on Epiphany Day? This is an ancient depiction of the 3 wise men coming to Yeshua Messiah, to Jesus, in the version of the Roman Catholic Church. Friends, take a good hard look at this while I get a drink. This is the Roman Catholic understanding of man receiving freedom and liberty, even woven into the story of the very Son of God coming to earth, the only true liberator. It's mixed. It's pagan. It's idolatrous. I don't have time to go into all the others. Benjamin Franklin in 1783 designed a coin and a medal that went along with it called Libertas Americana. And it was written in history now that this was to rightly honor Goddess Libertas for bringing them victory in the American Revolution. On that medal, Lady Libertas, she's wearing the Phrygian cap. There are many statues you can see right now online, 2nd century, where the Roman god Mithras is shown wearing a Phrygian cap. Many other places throughout the United States. The state seals of New Jersey, Hawaii, North Carolina, it's all over. Other countries as well, as we just pointed out, just one. It's global. It's huge. It's ancient. It's old. We've got to move on. The Phrygian cap. Now we're moving into the U.S. Supreme Court. Friends, this is huge. Please stay. Please stay with what I'm saying. Please. Please stay. Evangelical patriots are being led to embrace and usher in what they have been duped to believe they hate, which is a one-world government. Friends, it's probably you. You've probably been told you're standing up for the 10 Commandments by loving this nation. Friends, you've been deceived. You've been deceived. The patriotic agenda is catering to the one-world governmental agenda. Lady Libertas in Colombia is ancient and everywhere, and we are told to not go the ways of the nations. America is not unique in any way whatsoever, and we're about to discover that to another clear level in plain sight. How do we know we're nothing unique? How do we know there's nothing set apart and distinct about this nation, and we are not exempt? What do you know about the frieze of the U.S. Supreme Court right here that you see? If you look above the pillars on the left, the right, and the center, there is what's called a frieze, an F-R-I-E-Z-E. It is nothing more than stone sculptures onto the wall. Now, what you see here on left, right, and center, we're going to go through them in measure, is what's called the 18 greatest lawgivers of history. Now listen, this is right here, right now, in all of the decisions that are being made right now that you can watch on television. They are sitting right here. The laws of the land come out of this room. Why? They're overseen by these gods and goddesses and ancient lawgivers of history. So this frieze on the left, right, and center is called the 18 greatest lawgivers of history. It's on these inner walls of the Supreme Court. This piece was understood to quote, please, quote, this is not my opinion. You can go right now to the U.S. Senate building governmental website and it will tell you this exact same thing. These sculptures were made to, quote, remind all viewers that American laws are not based on one specific legal or religious text. Instead, they are built on millennia of legal history and traditions from around the entire world. Friends, do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm saying? Please listen to what I'm saying. I want to look in your eyes. Do you hear what this says? In the house of law, the greatest house of law in the earth, that the patriotic evangelical American Christian says they stand for the Constitution and the Supreme Court and the laws of the land. Friends, you're about to find out that if you are saying you're a patriot, this is what you're saying you endorse. This is what you're saying you stand for at all costs. This is what you say when you're standing up before your congregation. We must uphold until the end. This. And again, this says that this piece was, quote, to remind viewers that American laws are not based on one religious text. Instead, millennia of history and traditions of the entire world. So who's on there? Let's start going through. We're not going to go through all these. You can find them all online. You can find all of them. Okay, look at these two guys. Right there. You see that in the center. Now, you're going to want to jump on that and say it's the 10 Commandments. See, I told you. No, you go right now to read about this, and it clearly says on all the governmental websites from today, as well as to back to the ones in the sculptors who made it, it says they wanted it clear from now until forever that it was clear that these are the 10 amendments. These are the 10 amendments, okay? These are not the 10 commandments. You have the lawgivers. I'm not going to get into who's on the left and the right because we don't have time, okay? This are some more here. Okay, now these on the frieze here, you've got Moses on the far right, if your screen looks like mine. He's holding the large tablet. You've got Hammurabi in the middle. You've got this gentleman, Menes, Egyptian, on the left side. Now let's just go through these real quick, okay? And some others that are on here. But let's get to this because we're gonna run out of time. So Menes was an Egyptian pharaoh. He was the first king of the first Egyptian dynasty. Findings have him hanging out all the time with who? Horus. Many of you men listening to this already know this stuff. He was considered the first human ruler of Egypt, and he directly inherited his throne from the god Horus. He introduced proper worship of gods, how to do it elegantly. Good men, upstanding men. He practiced sacrifices in luxurious surroundings and temples. This gentleman Hammurabi, he was the greatest king of the first Babylonian dynasty of the Amorites. He wrote a code of law called the Code of Hammurabi. Now, this was considered the Babylonian code of law in ancient Mesopotamia. He is of Amorite descent. He's in 2 Kings. He's not, but the Amorites, of course, 2 Kings 21. Don't follow despicable idols like the Amorites had done. Hammurabi, now he's an interesting guy. You might want to look into him. He's a little concerning that he is overseeing your laws, and right now the governing authorities submit to him, sit underneath him and his great law-giving abilities. He constructed temples celebrating Marduk, Babylon's a deity in Babylon. Marduk, you know who he is. To bless crops, fertility. Okay? Jeremiah 50 verse 2. Marduk has been shattered. Babylon has been captured. Baal has been put to shame. Idols and images have been shattered. Okay, now on top of this stone that's in Hammurabi's temple, now again, we're not talking right here, but this temple that's praising and exalting Hammurabi's law code. It's this 2.5 foot carving. He receives the law from the Babylonian god of justice. The Code of Hammurabi. Okay, now listen. That middle individual there. The Code of Hammurabi, who's one of the greatest lawgivers of history, who oversees the U.S. Senate in the District of the Goddess Columbia, he said, quote, he received the codes of law from Dagon, the protector of the people. He's known in history to be one of the leaders who implemented eye for an eye. And he did what? Now this is crazy. The monument of Hammurabi states this, that the laws and order that descended to him were from the God of justice to, quote, prevent the strong from oppressing the weak and to see that justice is done to widows and orphans. Do you see the mixing? And again, this individual in carved form is over the U.S. Senate. The U.S. Supreme Court, excuse me. Okay, so let's look at some more. This gentleman here, this is a few down from Moses. Moses and Solomon are on the frieze, and so is this man here. This is Muhammad, standing there with a copy of the Quran and a sword. Interesting. So is this guy here. This is the God of wisdom. Y'all are smart enough to catch on to this stuff now. Come on. We talk about Molech and we talk about the spirit of abortion and murder in this nation, and we say, why? And everybody says, it's the Democratic agenda. No, it is not. Look on the wall. We know Molech. We know owls. We know this throughout ancient gods and goddesses and deities. Well, this owl is hanging out on the shoulder of wisdom overlooking the U.S. Supreme Court. Here is Moses. Okay? Moses, okay, whew, boy. All right, we're a godly nation. Moses is on there, and as I said, I'm being fair, Solomon is on there. There are 2 biblical men out of the 18. 2. It's pathetic mixing at best. Draco is on there. Salome. Other individuals, man, we don't have time to mention all these things. But it is worth mentioning this now. About Yahweh's commands on here. And some of you gentlemen who know this, who would watch this, will know this. There's Hebrew on there. What I've been told, and I have not investigated this yet, I found 3 different websites that say this is the latter commands. This is the latter commands. This is not saying there shall be no other gods before me. This is not referencing the one true God. These are the latter commands. Some would like to call them the secular commands. Interesting, I believe. This stuff is very, very interesting to me. Justinian is on there. Now, he tried to eradicate Jewish writings, Jewish texts. He's on the freeze. Louis the Ninth, he burned manuscripts of the Talmud and other Jewish books. Lycurgus, a Spartan ruler, a militant man, he said that his laws were supernaturally given to him while he was in the inner court of a pagan temple. Look into the Great Rhetra, Rhetra, which is the code of law he gave, which gave him the oracles of law from pagan deities. Again, man, these men are on the walls alongside other gods and goddesses that we won't even have time to get to. We won't have time. Again, it's this right here. You see how many, there's 18 men and then other gods and goddesses throughout the whole stinking thing. It's covered with idolatry and pagan deities. And so we're going to bring this about to a conclusion here. Now, I'm going to have to read some things because I need to stay on track and close the door. I've heard many pastors and teachers in my life and in recent history define many other things as unquestionably pagan, idolatrous, things that we must come out of, or else we're going to be in disobedience to Yahweh Elohim. We will not be able to walk in his ways and statutes because we'll be a mixed people, full of idols, some known, some unknown. And I'm just telling you clearly, there are some things I've been told that I have willingly left behind. I've heard the correction, I've heard the instruction of brothers, of godly men, and I've said, I look into it myself. If I arrive that is true, pagan, idolatrous, out the door, man. Out the door. Out the door. I got to go. With far less evidence, if you will, than this. Far less evidence than this. This, and again, we're covering literally an ounce out of immeasurable tons of evidence that this nation is pagan and idolatrous. Again, what will you do with what you're being shown and what you already knew that maybe you don't want to think about and you just disregard? So here's a conclusion. We've already talked about this. We know that we're of Yahweh. We know we are of God. And the whole world is under the sway of the wicked one. Isaiah chapter 28. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am the one who has laid as a foundation in Zion a stone, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone of a sure foundation. Whoever believes will not rush here and there to the nations, to their liberties, to their freedoms, to their rights that the nations give to them. Of course, I added that. These will not be disturbed. Exodus chapter 20, verse 5. You shall not bow down to idols nor serve them. For I, Yahweh Elohim, am your God, and I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and the fourth of generations of those who hate me. I'm telling you, this nation is in that place. Third and fourth generations. I'm just saying, we have to consider these things. The foundation is off. The foundation is off, friends. We're right back where we started. The foundation is off. The cornerstone was laid, literally and spiritually, upon the esoteric principles of ancient gods and goddesses. Goddess Columbia, Goddess Libertas, Minerva, being the primary ones that this nation provides you your freedom. This nation provides you freedom of religion. Now, we don't care what religion. We don't care if you're Muslim. We don't care if you're pagan. We don't care. We're providing you freedom. And I'm saying freedom to do what? Freedom to do what? Is Yeshua on here? Is Yahweh God on here? Where is the one cornerstone? Where is the only cornerstone that we're told is precious and sure? Where is the Zion foundation? Where is the land where Yahweh placed his name in all of this as these men gathered and chanted Masonic rituals over the literal cornerstone of this nation? Friends, where is it? I'm telling you, what we're trying to prop up, if in fact that is you, of patriotic Christian evangelical America, it is going down. It's going down. The Constitution is going away. Your rights, our rights, my rights too, are going away. I have resolved to be a Hebrews 11 man. I am sojourning in this land. I am a set-apart, distinct royal priesthood people. I'm part of that, and we're looking for the land where Yahweh placed his name. We're longing like the Hebrews 11 saints, which culminates in part 12 of this longer study. So pastor, teacher, leader, prophet, which will you be? A patriot or a sojourner? A dweller or an inhabitant, which are the same? A sojourner or an inhabitant dweller? The dwellers are running off the church. The inhabitants are running off the church. They're running us off. They're running us off. I'm telling you as clear as I know how. Genesis chapter 26, verse 16. The inhabitants and dwellers of the land have come to God's people and they said, get out. Get out. And if you stay, and if you fight it, and if you take your rights in one hand, and if you take a gun in the Bible in the other, and you hold them all together, you are mixed and you will be led astray. There's two fallings away coming. Those who do not buy the rapture doctrine and those who will not leave American Christian evangelical patriotism. Those two things are going to prohibit the elect from moving forward. I do not want to be either one. I don't want to be either one. Longing for relief and rapturitis-driven thinking that just brings me relief. And the interesting thing is they're the same. The evangelical movement demands tomorrow it's getting better. Next week it's getting better. Trump gets in, it will remain better. If we can keep our guns, it will be better. If we can keep the Constitution, we will be fine. If we can keep this liberty, this freedom, this right, we will be fine. And friends, I'm telling you, it's going away. It's going away. It's going the way of the nations. And the beautiful, wonderful, sovereign Father, Yahweh Elohim, in his goodness and in his kindness, is allowing the inhabitants to frustrate you, to have their way with you. Why? To test you, to purge you, to get you loosened up, uprooted, and moving, just like Isaac in Genesis chapter 26. He's saying, unless I frustrate your ways, you will never move. You'll never leave. So Christian, patriotic American church, come out from among them. Come out from among the nations. Be separate. We have got to stop giving these ancient pagan deities like Libertas credit for their governmental wisdom, and our patriot forefathers who got their esoteric wisdom from them. We've looked at just barely anything and covered plenty to make it clear what is recorded through history. I am convinced we're in Genesis 26:16. Yahweh is attempting to move the inhabitants of the land, America, to thwart the ways of his church. A preliminary exodus has come. A preliminary exodus call has come. There's an exodus that's greater to come, and there's one right now which is begin to come out Exit off of the nations. Exit off of the ways of the pagan nations. Come out. Be separate. This is not it. This nation is not the set-apart royal priesthood, people. This is not the goal. We've got to come out. We've got to be separate. So pastor, leader, preacher, please listen. Lead well. Lead your congregation. Lead people who are looking to you and literally will do what you say. Hold that tenderly, please. Hold it tenderly. And I'll say this lastly and I'll be done. Thank you for watching this long. I'm very hard on prophets of the hour. They're very ear-tickling. They are always giving favorable words. I believe most of it is false. Hands down, done deal, it's clear. It's becoming more clear every passing moment. Most prophet functions that have been on the mainstream this last calendar year are all false. Advantageous for America. Good for the church. Blessing, blessing. Trump, Trump, Trump. They're falling flat. But some things that I've seen that have been true, two things specifically. One, a gentleman had a dream, I believe back in the summer. He saw Lady Liberty underwater. He saw her drowning. Another gentleman, I just watched this 2 days ago. He had a dream, I think just mere months ago, maybe not even that long. What? Lady Liberty was under siege. She was being attacked. Her crown was being pulled off. Her flame was broken down. She was stabbed and bleeding, and she got dragged under the waters, drowned. Friends, I'm telling you, now these two prophets said we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. We've got to protect our liberties. We've got to protect freedom. We've got to uphold the Constitution. We've got to be patriotic Christian Americans. And I'm telling you, the dreams and the prophecies and that part were probably true. But the off of the what I would say is the proper understanding of that in light of what we just looked at is she's got to go. The goddess Liberty has got to go. She does not, will not, cannot, will never provide your freedoms and liberties, ever. They come from Yahweh Elohim, and they come from no other. They come from no pantheon of gods. They come from no greatest lawgivers of history who received the oracles of law and then gave them to this governing authority in America to oversee us and to take care of us. This is a global, eternal agenda, friends. Don't be duped. Don't be duped. And if you are, confess it. If you have been, confess it. I'm meeting brothers and sisters who are saying, this has been me. I've been duped. I've been duped. I look like a fool. Friends, all of us have had that place. All of us have had that revelation, and all of us have the choice to confess, repent, and turn and say no more. And anyone who's under me in a place of authority, we're going away. We're going out from the nations. We're going to a land where Yahweh placed his name. Friends, people will follow you. People will follow. People will follow because it's true, because it's right, because it's the eternal promise of a covenantal Father named Yahweh for his people. His people now, not for the nations, for his people. So friend, I'm telling you, I'm pleading with you. This is a warning. This is a warning. The best I know how to give one in the most concise way I know how to present it. Please come out. Please come out, pastor. Please come out, leader. Please come out, church. Be separate. Be separate. Be separate. No longer be an inhabitant. No longer be a dweller. It's time to be a Hebrews 11 saint and become a sojourner who's lost their life for the sake of Yeshua Messiah, and therefore we have found it. You've been watching the Pat to Zion podcast, video edition. You can find the series in its entirety right here, somewhere on YouTube. It's an entire playlist. Again, it's 13 hours, 12 or 13 hours. It's 13 parts looking more deeply at these matters in much more great detail. Now, I do too much commentary. I talk too much. I apologize. This is not a professional endeavor, but I believe it's true. You can email us. We've had people emailing us wanting to get together, pathtozionpodcast@gmail.com is the place to do that. Subscribe here, and again, I don't care about that, but please would you share this video to your pastor, to your leader, to a prophet, to a teacher, to an evangelist, to someone who has an audience, because I don't have hardly any audience. If you know someone who does, or if you yourself have an audience and this resonates with your spirit, now your flesh man's going to hate it, but if it makes some impact on your heart, please prayerfully share this message so they can go out. Why? To waken the church from her slumber, because we're moving soon. We're moving soon. We're going out to meet our beautiful bridegroom, and he wants a bride made ready. Thank you for watching. Amen.